All right, we're going to go live on both formats in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Give the room a second to populate.
All right, folks, I have 6 o'clock on my clock. I say we wait 30 seconds and then, Will, do you switch us live to the main room?
You're on now, sir.
Or are we there?
I believe we're live. We can start whenever you want, Glenn.
Yeah. You're live, Glenn.
Glenn, it's 6:01.
Hello, everyone. I'm Glenn McCordy and a member of the UAW Monitors election team. As you likely know, in accordance with the results of the UAW referendum held last fall of 2021, this year, for the first time, the international officers of the UAW will be elected through a union-wide direct election in which UAW members will cast votes directly for candidates nominated by delegates to the UAW's recent constitutional convention. Official election rules governing this historic election were issued in May of 2022. The direct election will take place this fall. Ballots will begin being mailed in mid-October and votes will be counted the week after Thanksgiving. For more information about the upcoming election, please visit the Monitor's website at www.uawmonitor.com/elections. With that said, we would like to welcome you to the candidate forum for the position of Secretary Treasurer. This is the first of 3 forums. The forum for vice presidential candidates will be held on Monday, September 19th, and the forum for presidential candidates will be held on Thursday, September 22nd. These forums will be conducted in accordance with the candidate forum rules and are being held to promote the fair, honest, open, and informed participation of the union membership in the election of these international officers. Recordings of these forums will later be posted to the Monitor's website. I would like to now introduce the moderator for these candidate forums, Stephen Greenhouse, an American labor and workplace journalist and a senior fellow at the Century Foundation. Mr. Greenhouse was a reporter for the New York Times from 1983 to 2014 and covered labor and the workplace for 19 years. He also served as a business and economics reporter and a foreign correspondent. He's the author of 2 books, Beaten Down, Worked Up, The Past, Present, and Future of American Labor, and The Big Squeeze, Tough Times for the American Worker. Mr. Greenhouse is an independent moderator and has no affiliation with the UAW or the Monitor. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Greenhouse.
Thank you, Glenn. Welcome to this evening's forum, everybody.
We can't hear you. Hang on one second. You're not muted.
Hello? Can you hear me? Welcome to this. Can you hear me? Welcome to this evening's forum. I'm honored to moderate this forum for the United Auto Workers, which has long been one of the nation's greatest unions. I'd like to start with
Steve, I want you to hold on for 1 second. Just if Frank or Margaret could just confirm, you guys can't hear Mr. Greenhouse either, right?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
So
sorry.
Steve, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Steve, there's I believe your microphone locally may be off because you are not muted on the system.
It says it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes, I can hear you fine, Stephen.
Okay.
Hang on,
can you hear me?
everybody. Apologies to everyone for the technical issues.
Okay.
We'll sort it out in 1 minute.
Should I start?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, I'll start. Sorry, it didn't say that I was on mute, so I was confused. Okay, hello. Welcome to this evening's UAW forum. I'm honored to moderate this forum for the United Auto Workers, which has long been one of the nation's greatest unions. I'd like to start with the forum rules, which were published to the candidates and are available to the monitor on the monitor's website. As you can see, only the candidates, myself, and the members of the monitor's team appear on the screen, and the comment and chat functionality has been disabled. To start out, each candidate will have 3 minutes to make an opening statement. The order of these opening statements was randomly determined by the monitor. After opening statements, I will begin directing questions to the candidates. I decided on those questions independent for both the UAW and the monitor. I did, however, consider many questions that were submitted during the past week by UAW members to the monitor's hotline. While time has run out to submit questions for this forum, UAW members may suggest questions for the upcoming vice presidential and presidential forums by following the instructions on the monitor's website. The candidate to whom the question is addressed will have up to 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will then have up to 1 minute to address that response, the original question, or both. Finally, the candidate to whom the question was originally posed will have up to 30 seconds for rebuttal. I have discretion to grant a candidate additional time. When not speaking, all candidates must mute their microphones. Candidates are prohibited from interrupting other speakers and are only permitted to unmute when I indicate that it is their time to speak. If a candidate wants additional time, they should use the Zoom hand raise function. A timekeeper will display the remaining time available for candidates to speak. Once a candidate runs out of time, I will tell that candidate they must wrap up in the next 10 seconds. After that, the candidate's microphone will be automatically muted. After the question and answer portion, both candidates will have the opportunity to present a 3-minute closing statement. We are looking forward to having a thoughtful discussion tonight about issues of relevance to the UAW membership. To do that, it is important that candidates follow the timing rules, not interrupt or speak over each other, and be respectful. If folks are unable to do that, I may limit or suspend a candidate's speaking time to maintain order. I should note that as moderator, I'm committed to being scrupulously neutral as between the candidates, not taking sides or showing preferences. The two candidates for Secretary Treasurer are Frank Stuglin and Margaret Mock. Mr. Stuglin will give the first opening statement for 3 minutes.
It's Frank Stuglin.
Stuglin, I'm sorry.
All right. I want to thank you for monitoring this debate or forum. And I want to thank our membership for this forum, for this opportunity to talk about my experiences. I started off in an IPS plant, independent part suppliers. I started off as a committee, worked in the plant, seen what was wrong, decided to run for office to make the changes necessary. I served as a committee person, committee chairperson, a vice president of a local, president of a local, assistant, a servicing rep, assistant director. As president of Local 155, we had 85 different units with 85 different contracts. That's where I honed my skills, at arbitration, contract negotiations. Went on to servicing, same thing. Represented all different sectors of this union. As assistant director, had the opportunity to serve our membership in that capacity. And was in one of the co-signers for all the financial duties that we did at the region. And serviced our members and had part in every facet of the union as assistant director. As a director, we put in education programs, online education, trained thousands of our members out there, because our members are the most important thing. Our members are our biggest asset in this UAW. They have to be educated. We put in the training programs for that. We put in online training. As Secretary Treasurer, we're doing the same thing. Putting on training for our trustees, for our financial secretaries, for our presidents. Putting on online classes, Lewis system. We're developing classes for the Lewis system. Local union, so local unions can access the information they need easily. I am doing the hard work. We are putting policies in place so something like the corruption that happened in the past won't happen again. We're putting policies in place. We're doing the things that is necessary to have the respect of our members again. And that's what I'm fighting for. That's why I'm running for Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. Ms. Mock?
Hi, thank you everyone for attending today's forum. It's greatly appreciated. I'm so grateful that you're here and thank you so very much. But let me let you know who I am. My name is Margaret Mock. I'm running to be the next International Secretary Treasurer. My journey started in 1994 at Chrysler's Detroit Axle Plant, UAW Local 961. In 1999, I won my first elected position as the local treasurer. Later, I was elected financial secretary to replace a predecessor who had been removed by the International Union. I had to clean up a mess because the local's financial data had been erased from the union's database. We hired an outstanding bookkeeper. She and I worked together to get the finances in order, and I'm very proud to say that after a lot of hard work, we got the local's finances straightened out. This is exactly what I plan to do if you elect me Secretary Treasurer, clean up the mess and the corruption left behind by my predecessor. Unlike my opponents who have sided with the companies, I have a real history of siding with the membership. After serving as financial secretary, I served as the health and safety representative for Detroit Axle and at the Marysville Axle Plant. Unbeknownst to me, some international leaders worked with ZF management to remove me from the position. With the support of my local union leadership, I appealed this removal all the way to the Public Review Board. Through my appeal, I learned that management didn't like having someone like me around who actually did their job of filing OSHA complaints and keeping the membership safe. My experience makes one thing clear. I will stand up for the membership's interests, no matter the personal cost. That means proactively holding my fellow UAW leaders accountable for any wrongdoing. That means speaking out against the corruption. That means opposing concession, tiers, the abuse of supplemental workers, also known as TPTs and temps. That means fighting for COLA and raises for retirees. This is what I've always stood for. At Local 961, I was elected production committee person 3 times, serving as the shop chair during my last term. I've served multiple years as a bargaining committee member. Since Chrysler got out of the axle business, I moved to Warren Truck, my new home, Local 140, in September of 2020. No matter what position I've held or where I've worked, I've always sided with the membership. I'll have your back as the next Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you very much. Now, first question for Mr. Stuglin. The UAW has been through one of the worst scandals in its history, with 2 former presidents sent to prison, 17 officials convicted, and millions of dollars mishandled or embezzled. In your campaign statement, you say members' dues dollars are sacred. In your 15 months as UAW International Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Stuglin, what have you done to make sure that no such corruption happens again on your watch? And if you're elected to a full 4-year term as Secretary Treasurer, what more do you plan to do? What more do you think the union needs to do to prevent any future financial corruption?
Well, like I said, we put it in over 11 policies, due diligence of vendors to make sure the corruption isn't there, where they do background checks to make sure that there's no, where the vendors are vetted And to make sure there's no conflict of interest with the person that's ordering the material or ordering the work from the vendors. We are putting all these policies in place to make sure it doesn't happen. Anti-bribery, corruption policies, travel expense policies, payroll policies, fixed access policies, code of conducts. Under my watch, we investigated a local where the member was stole $2 million. That was under my watch. We found that out. We turned it into the labor department, and the individual was prosecuted, and he's in jail now. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's what we're changing. We got to build back the respect that our members deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have a minute to respond if you like.
Well, it's my understanding from what I remember reading that under the current administration caucus, they were accused of concealing an investigation of a regional director or assistant regional director that was caught stealing. That was my understanding. And as far as policies and procedures put in place, according to that last monitor's report, yeah, I think not. You're slow walking, putting in compliance issue or addressing compliance issues. The monitors asked for the administration caucus to put in many different policies and procedures. You have yet to do a lot of those. That's what I have to say about that.
Mr. Stuglin, would you like 30 seconds to respond?
Yes, there's nobody hiding nothing, okay? It takes time to put procedures in place. You don't want to put a procedure in place that it doesn't take time to be thought out, and to make sure we cover in all of our bases. So it does take time to put procedures in place, but it's not a quick fix, just put something in place, then figured out you didn't catch everything. We're doing the due diligence of putting the policies in place that's going to actually work.
A question for Ms. Mock. Ms. Mock, you've served as treasurer and financial secretary of UAW Local 961 for several years, but you've never served as secretary treasurer of an organization nearly as large as the parent UAW union. Can you tell us why you believe you can handle the finances of such a large organization, one with 400,000 members? Do you have the experience? Do you have the expertise to handle the job of international secretary treasurer?
Thank you so very much for that question. When I came into office under a special election as the financial secretary of Local 961, we didn't have any records, not one. Everything was totally wiped out. My experience comes from getting in there with one bookkeeper to recreate every last record so that we can file the reports that had to be filed. That's where my experience comes in at. Now, as secretary treasurer, I will have the experience, or I will have the luxury of having more than one bookkeeper. I'll have a whole staff to help me make sure the books are taken care of and all of the documents that need to be completed are completed. I'll have a whole staff working with me, just like Frank does, a whole staff working with him.
Thank you. Mr. Stuglin, would you like to respond? You have a minute.
Yeah, my experience is why I should be secretary treasurer. I was the president of a local that had 6,000 members. And we did the finances there. I was a financial officer there. Everything that went through that local, I had to sign off on. As a director, an assistant director, I was in charge of the finances. That's where I should be the secretary or treasurer. And we came under budget every time at the region.
Ms. Mock, you have 30 seconds to respond if you like.
So Frank, from what I can remember being a financial secretary of a local, the president at the time didn't have much to do with creating reports and filling out documents and communicating with the government. His main job was to sign the checks. I'm the one that had to go in and create the documents, fill out the reports, report to the government. I'm the one that had to work with the bookkeeper when we had to totally recreate the records. So yeah, the experience of a financial secretary at a local
Please wrap up.
sees. the experience of a president in terms of financing.
Question for Mr. Stuglin. This is a question submitted by a UAW member about a fairly hot topic nowadays. As we see the auto industry transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, what is your plan to keep those jobs represented by the UAW? How do you plan to keep the members who will face job losses due to the transition to electric vehicles? How will you help keep them gainfully employed?
Was that directed to me?
Yes.
Oh, how to keep them directly employed by keeping work here in the United States and to go after the EVs. There are 7 EV plants out there that are going to be built or built already. We're going after them. We're going after them and make sure they get the wages that they deserve there, up to the standard. We're organizing them plants. We're building an organizing system that is going to go after them plants in the area, using the locals that are around to organize. Because they know the area, they know the people. They go to the synagogues, they go to the mosques, they go to the churches, they go to the stores. We need the people in them areas to organize them locations. And we'll be there to assist them in organizing. But we are after each one of them, battery plants, anything to do with EVs, we're going to be after. Not only EVs, all other kind of sectors too, we're going to go after for organizing.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have a minute to respond if you like.
Well, if I'm elected Secretary Treasurer of the International Union, my plan is to get back to the grassroots when it comes to organizing the EV plants. That's my plan. It's very important that we go into those facilities. We talk to the members. We let the members talk to each other. We all work together to come up with the plan to organize those particular types of facilities. We want to make sure we know what their needs and wants are. So we have to talk to the members one-on-one. We have to let the members talk to amongst each other. And then we all come together collectively as a group to find out what they need and give them what they need in order to organize.
Mr. Stuglin.
Well, I'm glad you agree with my plan because that's exactly what I'm doing, Ms. Mott. We are working with every local out that wants to work with us to organize. Even your home local 140, they just organized Dakota. We worked with Dakota 140 to organize Dakota. We didn't have one no vote. 100% yes. So we are working with the grassroots. That's what my plan is all about. Coming up from the bottom. The best ideas come from our locals.
Thank you very much. Now a question for Ms. Mock. I'd like to ask you how, in your opinion, the UAW's big corruption scandal could or should have been prevented through better oversight and monitoring of financial practices?
Well, if you add, okay, so to me, in my opinion, every last financial or secretary treasurer could have stopped that corruption dead in its tracks. With better oversight, better bookkeeping, better staff, every last secretary treasurer could have stopped it. But they chose not to. They chose to look the other way. They chose to cover it up because their friends were involved or the administration caucus was involved. They chose to cover it up. Under my watch, nobody will be, I will not cover up anything for anyone, period. I don't care who it is. It could be somebody that's already there. It could be somebody that's a part of the Members United slate. I will not be covering up any type of corruption, period.
Mr. Stuglin, a minute to respond.
Yeah. She talking about, you know, she didn't answer this question exactly, but let me ask the question exactly. We're putting the policies in place right now that probably should have been put in a long time ago. We're doing it now. We're putting the policies on so the corruption didn't happen. Yeah, I was upset when that happened. I was pissed off, you know, because they ruined my trust into the system too. But I'm there to put the trust back in. You know, I don't want to swear, but them guys ruined the trust of our members with their union. They were corrupt. And I don't know how you're gonna fix somebody's will to do something wrong. But we're putting the policies in place to correct it, to stop this abuse.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond, Ms. Mock.
Well, speaking of stopping abuse and what a person on the IEB board can do, currently you're violating the language in this book right here, Article 14, Section 3, which states that, and the monitor did emphasize it in here, that you should not, the ongoing corruption, issuing concerning transparency, favoritism, nepotism. Article 14, Section 3 specifically states, in order to be a member of the international board, or not the board, but to be on staff, I should say, you have to have been a dues paying member for a whole year in good standing.
Please wrap up. Yeah. Okay,
You
thank
have to been, and currently you have family members that are on staff that was not a part of the UAW. And we have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, question for Mr. Stuglin. As you noted, a Detroit News article from September 2021, a year ago, states that UAW, quote, auditors discovered more than $2 million in improper expenditures of union dues at Local 421 in Warren, Michigan, whose members included Stellantis workers. That Detroit News article quotes you, Mr. Stuglin, saying that your efforts helped expose this corruption. You're quoted saying, "We, the International, have taken immediate action in this matter. We've put together a very enhanced auditing system." My question to you, how should the UAW ensure the needed cultural change at all levels of the union, including locals like 412, to assure greater honesty and to prevent corruption? Does there need to be more ethical and financial education of officers and of rank and file members?
Yes, there does. There does need to be more training. And we're putting the training together for the trustees of every local to make sure they're properly equipped when they look at the books. The financial officers to make sure they're equipped to do the finances, and the presidents. And the presidents do have a say. Every document is signed that goes through finances through that local is signed by a president. I don't know if Margaret Mott's president at the time signed them, but every one of them financial pieces of paper is signed by the president of a local. So, but the education is the most important thing. Our auditors are putting together right now education programs for the trustees, for the secretary treasurer, and for the presidents, and for our members too. So they are well aware of everything that goes on.
Ms. Mock, you have a minute to respond.
Well, what took so long for you to get that going, Frank? It's great that you have it going, but it should have happened a long time ago when you first got there. It should have happened before you were there. But here, let me go back to what you said earlier. Yes, my president at the time when I was treasurer and when I was financial secretary, he did sign the documents that needed to be signed, that was required of him to sign. So yes, he did, and that's been my experience with that.
Mr. Stuglin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I don't have no more response, but yeah, I do. You know, I've been putting classes together at the region, at the local, all the way through my career. In every leadership position I've been in, I put in classes. It takes time to put in classes. You can't just wave a magic wand and put them in place. It takes time and thought. And that's what we're doing right now, putting legitimate classes in place.
Thank you. Question for Margaret Mock. The UAW has shrunk from 1.5 million members at its peak in 1979 to 400,000 members today. What do you think the union should do going forward in terms of organizing workers and adding members? And I asked both about organizing workers in manufacturing and workers in white-collar jobs like grad student teachers and researchers.
Well, once again, we have to get back to the grassroots to involve the members when it comes to organizing. Now, as we're doing that, we also need to make sure our house is in order. Currently, we have a habit of and I guess the IEB is aware of this, the language on supplemental workers, temp workers. How can we organize anyone when we got supplemental workers and temporary workers? Well, temporary workers, we're now calling them supplemental workers. We gave them a new title, but they still have to endure the same BS. But how can we organize anyone when we have supplementals that have to work 12 hours with 10 minutes notice, that have to work 6 and 7 days with 10 minutes notice? Or if they come to work, they can't leave unless the supervisor tells them they can leave. Even if they have babysitting issues, then I'm working right next to someone that's not making what I make. That's not fair. Everybody should come up to what I make as a traditional worker. This is some garbage that I'm working next to somebody that's not being afforded the same rights and opportunity, the same benefits and things that I'm being afforded. Everyone should have a pension. We all should have COLA. How about we do that?
Thank you. Mr. Stuglin, you have a minute to respond.
I think we could do both. I think we could raise everybody's wages up, get rid of the tiers. But it's going to also be work, and we could also organize at the same time. We could do both at the same time. Grassroots, that's where we're at. That's what I've been preaching for the last year or the last 5 years at the region, preaching about the locals, getting out and organizing, and be us as a toolbox to help them. Any tool they need to help, we'll be out there to help them. But it's going to take the grassroots, our locals. We got to build that army to get out there and organize.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have 30 seconds to respond if you like.
Well, it didn't take the IEB long to make sure your wages went up. Didn't take long for that. It didn't take long for the IEB to take away $100 in strike pay. We have to do better. We really and truly do. It's not about the IEB. It's not about people running for different offices. It's about the members. We have to make sure the members are always protected. The membership comes first. We have to make sure that the members know that they come first.
Mr. Stuglin, you have 30 seconds to respond if you like.
Yeah, the members do come first, Margaret. And the way the strike pay was voted by the delegates at the convention, not by the International Executive Board. It was the delegates that did that. So let's get the facts straight. It wasn't the International Executive Board.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Stuglin. This past July 19th, the Detroit Free Press ran an article stating the Monitor's report highlighted other issues that the Monitor has found. One involved the expenditure of $95,000 in union funds on 1,500 backpacks branded with the name and title of Secretary Treasurer Frank Stuglin. About 800 of these backpacks were handed out at a conference. The issue is problematic, according to the Monitor's report, because Stuglin would be a candidate in upcoming union elections, and the branding might run afoul of rules prohibiting the use of union funds to promote the candidacy of any person in an election. I end the Detroit Free Press quote right there. A member of UAW Local 7 submitted a question for you about this. He asked, what's your response to the Monitor criticizing you for spending members' dues money on backpacks with your name on them that were passed out at the financial conference in New Orleans?
Well, we were going to pass out backpacks if my name was on it or not. Okay. We have educational classes down in New Orleans we passed out over eight, pretty much close to 8 pounds of literature, education materials. Every conference I've been to, there's been a backpack. My name being on it, I was told about it. I corrected it for the next conference, for the IPS conference. My name wasn't on it. So, but it goes to the education of our members. Okay, that conference was about education, training our financial secretaries, training our trustees, training our presidents, training on the Lewis system, local union informational system. You know, and you know, the backpacks would have been there anyways. My name on the backpack didn't cost any more. The backpack was going to be there.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have a minute to respond.
Well, Frank, I understand the backpack was going to be there, but I believe you're incorrect in stating that it didn't cost anything additional to put your name on there. That was some fancy embroidering that was on those backpacks. And not only was your name on the backpack, your name was on the cup that was in the backpack, your name was on the book that was in the backpack, your name was on whatever other trinket that was in that backpack. You had your name on everything. That was a waste of the members' money. Once again, the members come first. You could have easily have said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to spend this money. It's the members' money. Let's do something for the membership. How about trying to come up with a way to reduce the monthly dues from 2.5 hours to 2 hours? How about doing something like that? If you want to do something for the members, you want to educate them, how about educating them with a little extra money in their pocket every month?
Mr. Stuglin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Margaret, I've seen you with pictures with your name on local 961 shirts, so don't be so high and mighty. I don't think you bought that shirt either yourself.
Thank you. Now a question for Ms. Mock. Ms. Mock, your Slate's platform says in all capital letters, no concessions, no tiers. How would you achieve that pledge of no concessions and no tiers if GM, Ford, and Stellantis dig in next year and say, get lost? What happens if the nation has fallen into a bad recession, as many economists predict next year during the big three talks? And what happens if one of the big three Detroit automakers says they'll close 3 plants, 4 plants, and lay off thousands of workers, of UAW members, unless they get some concessions, like a 1-year pay freeze? Would you still insist on no concessions? Is no concessions a realistic pledge?
Well, one thing I can say for sure, I do want to address one thing. We pay for our own shirts. I paid for this shirt when I was at Local 961. We paid for our shirts then out of our own money that I made every day by showing up to work. Now, as far as no concessions, no tiers, yes, it's achievable, but we can't keep running from it. We have to get to that table. And the Members United Slate, as a group, we can get to that table. We can work across the table from management to try to ensure that the concessions are gone and the tiers are gone, but we can't keep running from it saying, oh, it can't be done. It can't be done. We don't know that it can't be done until you actually come to the table and try and do it. And want to go one step further, in order to negotiate something like that, we must have a strong strike fund. We can't keep taking $85 million out of the strike fund, putting it in the damn general fund and saying that we can't go on strike because we don't have enough money. No, we keep that money in the strike fund and start using the strike fund for what it's there for, to strike, to use the leverage of a strong strike fund in order to strike, in order to negotiate. But you can't keep saying we won't be able to do it if you don't try. But if you keep taking money from the strike fund, you're scaring the members because they think we don't have any money. So why would they want to even go on the picket line or go on strike if they don't think that they're going to get the $400 a week? So that's what I have to say about that. We can't keep running for it. We at least have to give it a good faith effort, and the Members United Slate will.
Thank you. Mr. Stuglin, a minute to respond.
So, Margaret, I don't think nobody that's on this board or sitting on this board is afraid to go on strike. We right now, we currently have Case New Holland on strike. General Dynamics just came off of a strike. We took Stellantis on strike in Kokomo. And John Deere we took on strike. Volvo we took on strike. So I don't know where she's coming from that we're afraid to go on strike. And it's not just about the big three negotiations, it's about the IPS, it's about the TOP, it's about the casino workers that we got to represent too. And we're willing to take that fight on.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, every rejected contract is a stain on the IEB. Every rejected contract. So yes, you may have been successful in one here, one there, and one there, but you have to remember there were those contracts that were rejected.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Stuglin. In your campaign literature, you say you will, quote, empower our rank and file members. What have you done specifically in your 15 months as Secretary Treasurer to empower rank and file members? And if you're elected to a 4-year term, what more would you do to empower rank and file UAW members?
So this is not about my 15 months, it's my whole career. Even back at the local, I empowered our members to come and have a talk, have dialogue, listen to their problems. As regional director, I did the same thing. I had meetings, I had educational classes. I shook every hand that came through that region, and I graduated from one of them educational classes. And I talked to every one of the members. As secretary treasurer, when we had our financial secretaries conference, I went into every classroom, took questions from every member. And then with the organizing, we want the members from the locals to step up and start to organize, to learn how to organize. We got standing committee now that we just passed at the last convention, is an organizing committee, one of the standing committees. So my whole career, I've been having members step up and talking to them and having them voice their opinions and not afraid to listen to them, not afraid to listen to them and talk to them.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, you have a minute to respond.
Thank you so very much, Frank, for reminding me what you did to Marysville Axle when you were our regional director. We came to you, we begged and pleaded, please help us save our location. Don't sell this, don't give this business back to the Germans. You guys said, nope, you're out of there, not a problem. But the way you took us out, you totally weakened the local union. You took out all the elected leaders with experience. You sent us out. I have letters, I have emails, and when I asked for you guys to reconsider removing the elected officials out, just like at Detroit Axle, the elected officials were the last to leave. At Marysville Axle, it shouldn't have been any different. The elected trained officials should have been the last to leave there as well. But because we had high seniority, you guys put us out the plant first. And what happened? The local leadership, the local union for Local 961 at the Marysville Axle plant, they were weak. They were weakened and they couldn't get any help from the region.
Okay, time to wrap up. Sorry. Mr. Stuglin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, Margaret, I don't know what you're remembering from, but because I set up many meetings to try to keep that place open, keep American Axle, ZF open and keeping it under Chrysler's. And you, with Booth, the President Booth, had many meetings to try to keep it open. So don't say you when you're talking about me, because I was there. I wanted to fight. I wanted to keep it open. I wanted to keep it under the Chrysler umbrella.
Thank you. Thank you. Question for Ms. Mock. In your campaign literature, you say, quote, I'm running because even after the exposure of a massive corruption scandal, we still do not have trustworthy leaders on the IEB, on the International Executive Board. Those are fairly damning words, but you provide no specifics to back them up. I ask you now to tell us specifically why you believe those officials now serving on the IEB are not, quote, trustworthy leaders, unquote.
Well, I'll give you a couple. First of all, in this monitor's report, which if you want, you can look it up. We'll have it at membersunited.org. We'll have that whole paper there for you to see, the whole report. It states that currently there are 19 investigations underway. So that's one reason. And the second reason is for what I started talking about earlier. Article 14, Section 3. They've taken people from various different positions, from what I've seen, secretaries are a few of them that were never members of the UAW, and they put them on staff. There are qualified, dignified, bona fide local leaders. Hell, there are local leaders at Local 140 that are experienced, that actually have over way more than a year in terms of service as a dues paying member. They could have easily have placed them on staff, but no, they went and got people that were never a part of the union, never dues paying, and they put them on staff. Frank has a family member currently that was never a dues paying member, and that family member is on staff, in addition to some others. So those are my specifics.
Mrs. Stuglin, you have a minute to respond.
Well, who's corrupt, Margaret? That's my question is. You didn't say anybody was corrupt. You know, we were out there doing the job. You know, we're out there coming up with the plans to make sure corruption doesn't happen. We're out there putting the policies in place to make sure corruption doesn't happen again. So just saying somebody's corrupt doesn't mean they're corrupt, Margaret. Thank you.
Ms. Macchio, 30 seconds.
Frank, we have a whole constitution that governs the UAW. Anytime you violate any of this language, that's corruption right there. Nepotism is a form of corruption. You also have in the monitor's report where they say that you should not engage in nepotism. It's in here. And then your current, I don't know if it's you, and you could probably answer that question. Have you had any conversation with any government official regarding any, I mean, they say it's 19 other people. It's in the monitor's report.
Okay, thanks. Time's up. Mr. Stugal, I'll give you a chance to respond quickly.
No, I haven't had no conversations with the government on any investigation about me.
Good.
And everybody that's running for this, even you, Margaret, got vetted. If there was any investigations, the monitor would have stopped us from running.
No.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Stuglin. At the UAW's recent convention, the delegates at first voted to increase weekly strike benefits to $500 a week from $400, but then the administration pushed and succeeded on the last day of the convention to get the delegates to reverse that decision and keep strike benefits at $400 a week. You're a leading member of the administration caucus. Did you support the decision to increase strike benefits to $500 a week, or did you back the stance to reverse course and reduce strike benefits to $400 a week?
I supported whatever our delegates did at that convention. Okay, the delegates voted to increase it to 500. The delegates voted to decrease it to 400 again. So I supported whatever the delegates did. I didn't have a vote there. The delegates voted.
But did you have a personal position on that?
Well, I'd like to pay everybody what they make when they're working on strike, so we could win some of these disputes. But there's only so much money to go around.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, a minute to respond.
Let me say this. Being under investigation does not stop one from being vetted. You haven't been accused of a crime. I just simply asked, have you been spoken to regarding any type of corruption? So to say that you've been vetted, that means you're not one of the 19 is not really true. And then you still never answered the question about your family member being put on staff, even though your family member was never part of the UAW.
Mrs. Stuglin, 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, Margaret, I'm not under investigation. They haven't investigated me. Yes, I got a family member on staff on a technical thing, a technical job. Research and develop, research. She's got a degree in research. I had nothing to do with her getting her job. She got her job on her own.
Thank you very much. Question for Ms. Mock. This is from a UAW member. That person writes, I have held the position of financial secretary of Local 155 for 6.5 years with 5,200 members in the rank and file. I've reviewed your bio and credentials to run as a candidate. I would like to ask why, when you held the position of financial secretary at Local 961, the Department of Labor has filings that show that you failed to file LM2s, annual union financial records. Why you failed to file them in a timely manner, and then they had to be filed later by the financial secretary after you. Continuing the member's question, one of the main roles as a financial secretary is to file LM2s on time. Can you please explain why they had to be filed by your successor years later?
Well, yes, thank you so very much for that question. As I stated in my opening remarks, when I held office or when I took the position as financial secretary, my predecessor had totally destroyed everything. Everything had to be recreate it from scratch, from records that we had to scrape by and find. We tried to recreate it using bank statements and things of that nature. But during that whole time, we were in touch with the government agency that's over that, and they knew what was going on. We told them about the problems we were having. But to say that my predecessor had to file a LM, that's not true, because I had a bookkeeper, we got it all together, everything was taken care of before I left office. As a matter of fact, I made sure to have International come in and take a look at everything before I left, so that I would have a clean paper trail, so nobody can come back and say Margaret did anything. We were thoroughly audited before I left office. So everything that was supposed to be turned in was turned in. Whoever sent that got some bad information. I'm so sorry that they got that information, but that's not true.
Thank you. Mr. Stuglin, a minute to respond.
Well, I don't know if they got bad information, but it sounded like they got it from the LM2 forms. And it was the year after you left office that they had to pay the fines because you didn't fill the proper paperwork out. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Ms. Mock, any response, 30 seconds?
Once again, we were audited before I left office at the end of my term for a reason, for this right here. So foolishness could not come back and bite me in the butt. I had my behind covered. You better believe that. A little like you did with those book bags, those backpacks, you had your name covered on that, but I digress. Go ahead.
Mr. Stuglin, question from a UAW member who requested anonymity. What is your plan for organizing and growing the UAW? How does the UAW keep solidarity throughout all the different sectors of the union?
It's about listening to the locals and building up from our locals. Our locals are the most important. They're the closest to the membership. They're the closest to the ground. That's how we're going to build our membership back up. That's how we're going to organize the EVs. That's how we're going to organize every sector out there. Not just auto, not just aerospace, not just AgAm, not just defense, not just education, but all. If we all work together and get the locals involved, like we used to be, and organize, and organize.
Thank you. Ms. Mock, minute to respond.
Well, I do agree with Frank on that. We do need to organize. But while we're organizing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making sure our house is in order. You got TOPs, they're facing the same struggles as some of our temporary workers. We need to make sure that they're treated with respect, that their contracts are made better so that we don't have temporary workers or that we don't have tiers. And we need to take care of the higher eds and the TOPs. But you're right, we need to organize. And at the same time, yes, get our house in order so people will want to join the UAW so that our numbers will go up. Make the UAW a place for people to want to be again. That's how you make people want to join, when we're organizing.
Mr. Stuglin, 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree on something that we should organize. And we start from the bottom up, from the locals. Listen to our locals. They come up with the best ideas on how to organize.
Thank you. Question from Ms. Mock. In your campaign literature, you say that UAW members should, and I quote, receive strike assistance in a timely manner. How would you assure that members receive strike assistance in a timely manner? How specifically would you improve on what exists now? And what recommendations do you have in general for the UAW Strike and Defense Fund, which now has more than $800 million? Do you think that strike fund has been invested wisely? And if not, how would you seek to improve on how it's invested?
Okay, the first part of your question, can you repeat that again? Just the first, I just want to make sure I answer it correctly.
Sure. In your campaign literature, you say, I will assure that members receive strike assistance in a timely manner.
I got it. Okay, so actually, thanks to the delegates to this latest convention, it will be received in a timely manner. We no longer do they have to wait the days. They get it the first day. So that's a beautiful thing. They get it in a quicker time frame, I should say. Secondly, I forgot the second part. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. How specifically? So, and what do you
Oh, I
recommend
know what it
generally
was.
for the
Sorry, I
UAW
got
Strike and Defense Fund? And
Okay,
how might
so-
you invest it better? Yeah.
So this is what I'll do for the Strike and Defense Fund. Instead of taking money out to put it in a general fund, I will leave that interest in there so that the Strike and Defense Fund can stay strong. That's the one thing that can be done immediately. And in doing so, that means that it'll be at 850 million and the members can get a half an hour. The money can go back in the members' pocket. They can get a half an hour of their dues immediately. Once it reaches 850 million and stay at 850 million, that's how you do that. You don't keep taking money out, putting it in a general fund. You find other ways to take care of whatever. Well, here, I'll tell you one thing you can stop doing. You can stop having those fancy trips at the hotel in St. Petersburg. And I think at one point on the LM2, we paid $10,000 for some towels or something. We could stop spending crazy amounts of money on party trips where you might end up learning something, but for the most part, they're there to party. You know, we can actually get back to making sure that the dues money is spent properly. Be more responsible with the members' money. The money belongs to the membership. It's all about the membership. Let's give them back a half an hour of dues. Let's quit taking the money out of the strike fund. That's what we can do.
Mr. Stuglin, your response?
Yeah. Yeah, my response is we're working on how we pay our members strike pay. We're doing some test locals that went on strike in the last couple months, pay direct deposit, so they get their checks faster. By the end of the year, our strike fund should hit the 850 million mark, where the dues does go back down to $2. You know, taking the interest, that was voted on by the delegates at the convention too. So we would have to go back to the convention and redo that. But Margaret, we got a lot of problems here. And I don't know if we're talking about the right things. We need to solve these problems. We can't just be saying there's a problem. We have to have solutions for the problems. Thank you.
Ms. Mock, you have 30 seconds to respond, if you like.
Yes, so as far as the strike fund, there's no reason to take money, the interest out of the strike fund. We can leave that money there. The delegates didn't say, hey, I want to keep paying 2.5 hours, so keep taking money out of the strike fund. The members that I've talked to, they want to pay, they want the dues to go down. They need that money. Right now, times are tough, Frank. I mean, everybody's catching it. I'm catching it. I don't know about you, but I'm catching it. And the members that I work with, we're catching it. And the two
Time to wrap up.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I understand. Yes, that's what we need to do. Stop taking the money.
So it's 6:58, approaching 7 o'clock. So it's time for closing statements. Mr. Stuglin, you'll go first for 3 minutes, and then Ms. Mock.
Yes, I'm running for Secretary Treasurer. I'm not running against Margaret. I'm running to change our union for the better. I'm running to use my experience as a union member to better this union, to make it better, to train our members, to listen to our members, to help organize, to assist our locals with organizing, to assist our locals whatever they need from the Secretary Treasurer's office. It's not about me, it's about our members. It's not about anybody on the board, it's about our members. With the vision of the Curry Solidarity Team, we're gonna change. We're gonna make the changes that necessary. We're doing it now. But I'm asking for every member's support out there. I'm asking for your vote to make that change. I have the experience. My years of experience negotiating contracts, arbitration, finances, regional finances, local finances, now the Secretary Treasurer's job. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mock?
Thanks once again for everyone staying here, listening to the whole forum. It's greatly appreciated. But I'm Margaret Mock. I'm running for International Secretary Treasurer to ensure that corruption is driven out of our great union. I'm outraged by the outright theft of dues money by union leaders. Corruption comes in many forms. Union officers and reps living a high life at resorts when they have been sent to do the work of the union membership. The sale of jobs by international representatives, union officers, and appointees personal items at the union's expense. But not all corporate corrupt acts leave a paper trail, but they too can be stopped by driving integrity deep into the heart of the UAW. I'm running for this national position because my experience has taught me that we have to change the policies at the top. In the past 40 years, the UAW consistently traded concessions for job security that never materialized. Bad bargain in my book. The union's original vision of raising the living standards of its members was replaced with the company's corporate vision of higher profits. Today, our members are struggling financially and without future security, while some union leaders are still under investigation. As your International Secretary Treasurer, I will make sure the locals fully understand how dues money is being spent. My report will not merely be a financial spreadsheet, but a clear explanation of what it means for the members and how it has changed over the year. In my opinion on how the International can better allocate its budget. It's the membership's money. You deserve to know how it's being spent. It is the responsibility of the International Secretary Treasurer to be the guardian of the members' dues against any and all corruption. Unfortunately, because of the corrupt acts of the past international officers, we need a federal monitor. I still believe it's the primary responsibility of the UAW Secretary Treasurer to be the guardian of the UAW finances. I will work closely with the monitor to make certain that I am fulfilling my responsibility. Unlike the current leadership on the IEB, I pledge to never obstruct the monitor's investigation into corruption or to drag my feet in implementing their recommendations for improving our financial compliance standards and control. Unlike my opponent, I also pledge to never misuse the membership's dues in any way, including the promotion of my own candidacy for office. Women deserve a seat at that national table. And unlike the administration caucus, the members united slate, we have women running, and we have a woman running to be at that international table to negotiate on your behalf at a national level. Thank you for your time tonight. Please remember to update your mailing address with your local union as soon as possible. And please remember to vote. The stakes are high for our membership. Thank you.
I thank the both of you. So it's time to close. I thank the UA members who've tuned in, the members who care about the future of the union. I thank Mr. Stuglen. I thank Ms. Mock for putting up with my questions and trying to explain to the union your views on these various questions. I thank the monitor and the UAW for sponsoring this forum. And
I thank you, Steve.
And there'll be a forum for vice presidential candidates this coming Monday from 5 to 7, and a forum for the presidential candidates a week from today, also at 6 o'clock Eastern.
And a special thank you to our moderator, Mr. Greenhouse. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
All right.
And good night.
Good night.